take few realities, right? 6 to 8 months to get 70 transactions a day. So पहले 6 महीने कौन funding कर रहा है? Who's putting in that money? You are putting in that money, right? These are fixed costs which are going in, right? So which meant, let's take 6 months into account. 6 into 1.45 with 8.7 lakh rupees of upfront investment which has gone. तो आपके 9 लाख रुपए तो चले गए, which means you will take around 18 months, 15 or 18 months to break even if your business continues to remain on this run rate, and this business will not become 100 transaction a day level. It would, but then you will continue to dilute your margins out. You become like an alpha, you're trying to work on a 3%, 5% margin. You continue to cut down on that, more people will recognize you. It will take time, maybe 5 or 10 years. People will start coming back, you become a value store. But again, the maths will still not remain the same. So, this is the realities of running an offline store. These are the same realities of running an e-commerce store. So, most important thing is knowing what is the marketing spend you can do. Offline, of course, your organic search, all those things, it's a 6-8 months. It's about creating trust. It's about creating credibility. It takes time, right? All that takes time. But these are few realities. Same in the offline world also. So internet and online world, and the offline world, they all work on the same patterns. No difference whatsoever. So which means paid marketing is also an important investment which you can do. Because if you were looking to set up this offline business, similarly on online business, you can actually get consumption budgets out. Now, you can have as much audacious target. Basis those audacious target is what will define the marketing spend which can go into it. So for instance, if you feel you need to do 500 transactions, if you feel you need to do 1000 transactions, imagine the number of stores you people need to open and the amount of management bandwidth you need to create, and keep adding that. That's the typical maths on which most of the e-commerce companies are really working on. So this is facts, and now I'll get into some real marketing, right? So now a few questions which always get asked is that e-commerce is about getting first buyers. E-commerce is about getting transactions online. And typically if you talk to an e-commerce company, the two biggest areas where you bleed are your logistics and marketing. So anyone, like typically for a company which is starting out, we are talking that at least 20% of their investment goes into marketing, which is very high. But typically if I talk about traditional companies like the oil or the telecom segment, not telecom, but they are still a B2C business. Typically they do not spend more than 4 to 6% of their turnover as marketing. So that is the amount of difference we are really talking about. 20% versus 4 and 6%. So when the marketing is such a big burn, right? And it becomes very important as a businessman or as a marketer to try to bring the two dots together and make everything accountable, because every dime counts, right? That's something which you're trying to focus on. So I listed down a couple of goals which most of the marketers really ask us, right? What are the things you want to do, and what are the measurable metrics which you can put on Excel, right? Very quantified, basis which we can have our spends aligned. So the first thing is that acquiring a first-time customer. You just get me that customer once. I will do whatever possible. My product is so good, my experience is so good, he will keep coming back, right? So that's a goal which people can talk about. But can internet only be always getting first customer? Aren't your ads seen by repeat customer? Can that be controlled? Answer is no. So blunt answer no. Google, Facebook, any medium, organic, non-organic, paid, answer is no. Let's learn to live with reality and find the metric. How does it get aligned to, right? So the metric out there is to look at your first buyer to repeat transaction ratio. So even in an offline dukaan, when you are advertising, when you have a store, it is not in your control. Similarly on internet, it is not in your control. So aligning or identifying this metric or aligning your spend to this metric becomes very important. Second, what is the break even on the cost of acquisition, right? So everyone says that my product, let's say 600 rupees was the product cost which you're looking at, right? 25% is your margin. You're talking 150 rupees is the gross revenue which comes to your home. Now, can I acquire a customer maybe in 50 rupees? Can I acquire a customer in 100 rupees? Right? These are typical questions which get asked. There are ways to do it. There's no there's nothing called impossible. Then what is the scale you can acquire? Maybe you can acquire 1 transaction. Maybe you can acquire 5 transactions. But how do you make that maths work? Again, but knowing that metric, identifying that metric on an Excel, mapping your marketing spends to this metric becomes important. So gross margin earned on each transaction. A lot of people only track the billing I get. Start looking at gross margin. It's very, very important. Third, in India, as I said, it's a cash economy, right? We're talking about internet users. One of the most important metric which you have seen, and that's also there in the US, on mobile commerce. It's about number of prepaid customers, or customers who are doing transaction using credit card as a payment instrument. So in India, a lot of the e-commerce companies, and if I make a very generalistic statement, around 60 to 70% transaction in the non-travel segment happens via cash as a payment instrument. So cash on delivery, right? Even if I have a card, I will still say कि घर पे आ जाएगा तो मैं पैसे दे दूँगा. It's simple, right? So it's more of a trust, it's about credibility. So imagine valuing that user who's actually come online, paid it with a card, right? Doesn't he get deserved to be service first? Doesn't he get deserved to be measured as a premium customer in your marketing? So having that as a focus becomes very important. So looking at this ratio, because it has impact even on your logistic metrics, right? And I'll talk about it, in my next thing. Last not the least, right? When you have cash as an instrument, right? So people will cancel. People will refuse, they haven't ordered this product, right? So looking at this metric, now you say in business, uska bilkul sense banta, but how does that correlate to my marketing, right? So looking at what are your cancellations and return ratio at transaction level, at a marketing channel level, and so these are the 4-5 metrics which are highly hygiene, which you need to create in your marketing plan before you go out and look at creating any marketing strategy, or before you go out to deploy any spends around it. So that's what I want to emphasize on. So this is again one of my favorite questions, right? How to identify a price point for acquiring my customer, right? Simple in business. Whatever is my margin, I'm ready to spend. But the reality is, if internet could do that, then the whole world would have been profitable, and people would not need to create brands, and everyone would be happy. But again, before I go into this and explain, how you should do your maths, or how typically as a retail shop you should actually go out and do your maths, the reality is this, that while there is value, there's a lot of value in creating a large brand, right? And answering that gentleman's question, that why does a Jabong figures in top 5 and within a shorter time frame of being live in India, is purely because they have spent a lot of money in creating a brand. They're on TV, they're on OS, they're present everywhere. So now consumers are looking at that brand, going onto the internet, searching for them. People don't write they want to buy a shoe online. People write Jabong. They actually go and write in Google Jabong, and they discover Jabong. And now because affinity of that user with the user who's searching for buy a shoe online or buy online, it is the same user. Hence Google tries to figure out that people who are trying to buy online or shop online are actually looking for Jabong. Hence Jabong gets pushed up. So while Nitya was right, there are around 270 parameters and so forth. But there's again digital advertising versus marketing, right? So but for a retail shop, right, when we're creating a retail venture, my recommendation is that our marketing strategy should be aligned around aggregation. What can I aggregate? Who's available online? Who's right now looking for my product? How can I just reach to him? Very, very simple question to answer, right? So that customer is able to discover me. I become present in front of him. He has discovered his need. He knows what he wants to buy. I should come up as the best alternate, or I should be present at all those gateways where that customer is going, because he is the most easiest customer to convert. He is the most efficient, cost-effective customers to convert. So it is like saying that someone is inside a market. Let's say in Phoenix Mill, right? He is with the intent to do shopping, going in shop to shop. He is an easier person to convert by having a hoarding there, versus someone who's traveling on the road outside, may not have intent to get into Phoenix Mill. The conversion ratios are going to be different. So it's about aggregation, right? So customer aggregation plays a very, very important role. So keeping that in mind, this is a formula, which I have, somehow created, and this has helped a lot of the e-commerce companies on what actually work, right? So one of the most abused term in e-commerce world and also used term is something called lifetime value of customer, right? So there are merits in using these terms. There are, anyways, I'll not go down that path, but yeah, lifetime value of customer is something which is priced by any marketer to convince the business metrics that yes, hey, we can acquire a customer and make money over time. So that's what it stands for. That sometime keeping in mind the amount of users which are available on internet, it is not always profitable to acquire customers within the margin you make. So how do you really make it work? How do you make later on a social media work? How do you really make a CRM work after you acquire that first customer at a higher value? It's a science, but knowing this lifetime value of customer, how do you really calculate it is quite important. So typical way, and this is a very simple formula which you can do. It's supposed to be gross revenue, which is your percentage margin on your transaction value, into the number of repeated purchase that customer will do over whatever that period is. Now that period would vary from category to category. So I'll give an example. Let's say in books and electronics category, they take it a 3 months period. In fashion category, they used to take 6 months. Now they reduced it to 3 months. And jewelry, it could be maybe once in a year. So you need to identify that basis the category in which you're operating, that what is going to be a customer behavior, and basis that you are able to calculate the lifetime value of your customer. So again, with a live working an example, a branded shoe available in one of those large stores is for, let's say, 2,000 rupees. Let's say you are a smart sourcer, you ordered in bulk and you were able to acquire that shoe at 800 rupees. You're talking that same Puma shoe out here, right? So you're offering a very sweet deal to your customer that in my shop that 2,000 rupee Puma shoe is available for 1,200 rupees, which means the gross revenue which we will make on each sale is 300 rupees. Now again, taking fashion apparel as a category segment and especially shoes, typically as I said, the large companies are seeing a repeat purchase happening in a 3 months time. What is the value I'm ready to pay? So over a 12 months time, I'm seeing 3 purchases which could happen. So the value which I'm comfortable paying is somewhere around 600 rupees is something which I could invest in. So that's the way typically large e-commerce companies and retailers are actually doing their maths of a lifetime value and trying to see that, hey, I'm able to acquire a transaction. Now, again, as I said, as a retailer, you should know for what is the long haul are you in. You should know that once you have paid, so where did these companies go wrong is that although they did this math very beautifully and acquired the customer from a first transaction perspective, they continue to again pay for repeat transaction from other paid media channels. They never created their funnels effectively, which is their internal CRMs or all whatever things which we say, their on-site conversion ratio, which could have helped them to keep getting that customer without having a need to go to paid media again. That's where things really went bad, and that's something which is important as a marketer. You need to keep in mind. So again, now going back to the basic, right? Identifying what is the marketing strategy which works. And as I said, I just want to give you an example of the 2 large retailers, one from electronics category and one from shoes category, and then I would rather answer more questions because depending on which way you would like to understand. So I'm taking an example of the largest electronic retailer. Without naming them, they were on heavy, so they created their brand, doing heavy discounting on books as a category. They created a brand perception as a value store. People talk about their customer experience, timely delivery. One of the biggest thing again, and which is an example which I was giving, is that they created a value offering which is on a non-differentiated product. A product which could be delivered with a similar experience offline to online. A book is a book, a paperback edition is a paperback edition, as simple as that. A bookstore in Bombay versus in Delhi versus online cannot offer a differentiated experience or on that group, right? A shirt could, right? A shirt could be, torn. There's a lot of challenges in different categories, right? But it was a simple offering basis which they created the credibility. So they went after the whole trust factor, right? That played a very important role. But few facts now I want to tell about them is that 45% of the transactions now happen outside the book categories for them today. 60% of the non-book category transactions come from repeat customers. So, people talk about they're doing a lot of offline spendings, doing a lot of advertising, doing a lot of digital media advertising. They have been able to crack this piece to a large extent. And we are a very large partner for them. We are the second largest customer acquisition channel. I can tell you they're not a price warrior. So if I have to buy a mobile phone, if I have to buy an electronic gadget, I would never buy from them. They're most expensive. So it's again a perception they have in a market, and by this time you might have already guessed who that person is, but that this is the reality. You need to identify as a marketer what is that unique proposition which you are trying to take to your customer, and you need to focus on one element. You can't confuse. One of the biggest thing is it is all about simplicity. A dukaan is about simplicity. Any retail venture is about simplicity. Should not complex things. Keep it simple. Be known for one good thing, right? You know, that's most important. If you are known for one good thing, people will give you opportunity for second. People will give you opportunity for third. But be known for that one good thing. Keep things very simple, right? So it's important. So one of the biggest learnings, and I'll talk about where do they spend money and so forth. But one of the few biggest two learnings which I have gained from their business and which we share with a lot of other e-commerce companies, that replicate a need, right? Their entry barrier to acquire a customer is low, right? So they went into the books category now. If you talk about ISBNs, you might have seen behind the books, right? ISBN numbers. There are millions of titles which are available, right? Millions of titles. Beyond that, and if one goes into Google, again, I'm not an expert there, but what I understand from their team is that beyond some 50, 70 titles where there is a warfare of bidding which happens, there are some 1 million, 2 million titles, which is like a chindi ka dhanda, right? Where they are the only one who's present. For example, I don't know if you've heard of it, nurses who wants to go abroad, they need to give an example, NCLEX, NCLX or something like that, right? All books, there are around 8 to 10 books which are must read, for someone who's preparing for those tests, right? On those all books, it was only that brand who was present. They were able to acquire transactions at, dirt cheap rates, very near to the amount of money they would make on that transaction. So, identifying that entry barrier before others would realize is also, it's highly important. Second, using lifetime value, the formula which I showed you effectively, right, to discount your customer and remaining within that margin. So, they were smarter, and, another company in that same space, founded 10 years ago, just raised $5-6 million last year. It's going through quite a tough time. Has been in that book space, was known for doing books for so long, right? But they always struggle with the factor that how can I acquire a customer outside my margin? They were able to do that because they were able to do the lifetime value of maths quite successfully and draw enough results out of it. So there are two important learnings which I had. Now going into some detailings on where are they spending money, right? Today, and they spend a lot of money offline, but if I talk about digital first, where do they spend money? Google, right? It's simple. It's about aggregation. If a person is in a market to look for a Samsung S3, he should come to me. Simple. I don't want to bother in helping him to identify which smartphone does he wants to buy. They do not advertise on keywords like mobile phones, cheapest mobile phones. They don't advertise on those kind of keywords. So you can do those analysis. They don't advertise on keywords like phones with camera, whatever. So they don't do. Very, very simple brand keywords. People are looking, they have identified their need. Let me go and aggregate that. Simplicity, right? That's what they're trying to do. They go into depth. So if Samsung has in India around 48 models deployed, they are present on every single model. So they ensure that their catalog has depth. Their marketing is aligned to that catalog depth. So that's something which works. So Google is the largest channel for them.
Would you say that paid search?
Paid media, purely on paid media front. And Google ends up consuming around 80% of the digital marketing budget. They have tried Facebook, and I'm not saying the social side of Facebook, but purely from a paid media. And again, to comment on Facebook, right? There are two worlds of Facebook for every marketer. One must understand. One is about the whole virality, audience engagement, creating Facebook pages, engaging with them, and so forth. There's a second world which is the paid media. And again, my understanding of the paid media is much better. I think there are other experts who can talk about it. But purely from a paid media perspective today, if Facebook has, I think so around 40-50 million or 80-90% reach in Indian internet audiences, they're also one of the top 3 publishers in India. They create enough publishing inventory, they have enough mass in terms of page use, which means there's value in advertising on those spaces, right? As simple as that. Like on Google, on the right hand side, you see your ads on a formula of search, bid, keywords, and so forth. Similarly on Facebook, on the paid media front, there is enough value and there is enough mass available, there are enough combinations which are available to identify the users which you can acquire. It is expensive. Facebook is still expensive as compared to Google search. People have still not been able to crack that formula. But there are a few interesting things which I heard. It's in the fashion segment where they say that the average cart value of a customer acquired from Facebook is much better than acquired from Google. In some cases, the repeat values are higher. So again, as I said, it's a hit and trial model. If you've identified your metrics out correctly, you will be able to discover that. But again, for them, Facebook doesn't perform because purely the amount of margin they make on, let's say, on mobile phone, right? It's a 6%, 4% margin market. They're not able to acquire a transaction in those kind of values. But let's say for jewelry, for home decor, Facebook, I've been hearing from e-commerce companies, has been doing quite great. For them, Facebook is the first channel, Google is second. Because we don't see in India searches happening on keywords like I am looking for a diamond ring or a semi-precious blue stone, right? So it requires a mix of using more for demographic targeting plus maybe a social behavior of the user in that ecosystem to graph him out and try to advertise. So Facebook has worked out much better for them. So again, it's a more of a hit and trial method. You need to go through basis the metrics you identified. So for them, Google is one, and second is performance marketing, and that's what we are an affiliate channel, we are an affiliate marketplace. That's what Tyro is. So we contribute around 14% or 15% of their overall transaction volume. Again, I'm saying from a paid media perspective. So yeah, that's what we do. And again, we are a cost per transaction model. We have identified the benchmarks on what is the cost of acquiring a transaction on Google as an ecosystem. They say that, hey, if you're able to give me a transaction at X value and with a Y amount of